Over 10 years ago, when I started my first production job at LMG, I was handed a few cheap softboxes and 2 expensive KinoFlow Diva 400 lights for our videos. Both were not very bright, had a single color temperature, weird color issues on skin tone, and were clunky to use. Fast forward to today, and we have the Amaran 300C, a full color RGB light that promises to be bright, versatile, and easy for anyone to use. I decided to test this light in the hardest way I could think of for this video. I tried to shoot a no-budget music video in 7 days using this light. Let's see how it went. I knew I wanted to test the 300C in a real set environment, so I organized a shoot with a local singer named Madeline Duke for her new song called New Era. The prep and production had to be completed within a week in order to work with Maddie's availability. I did my best to come up with simple lighting setups that fit our $0 budget and tight timeline, while still testing what the 300C could do. The first thing I decided on was that the 300C would live in a softbox on a boom arm that we would wheel around the studio the entire day of shooting, adjusting it as needed for each shot. I chose this because it was going to give us the softest possible light for the least amount of setup. With this setup, the 300C is bounced into the softbox back out through a layer of diffusion, making the light wrap around the face really nicely for our shots. I usually tend not to use softboxes in a production setting like this because I prefer larger lighting sources further away from the set. But because of this unique combination using the 300C's umbrella mount, it gave me the light quality I was looking for without having to do too much work to control the light's spill. Once our key light was rigged up, I used the Sidus Link app to control the 300C throughout the day of shooting, which ended up being fairly convenient. The ability to control and change the color to whatever I wanted from my phone made lighting so much easier and way more fun. I was able to option different colors at any point during the shoot to make sure we were finding the right fit. Dialing the output percentage without touching the light physically made it much easier to see if what I was changing worked out. I honestly cannot stress enough how much easier this was than having an assistant going through a pack of gels, holding on and off different colors to see how they look, and then adjusting the output to make sure it all works. Physically doing this while the light is in a softbox would be a huge time sink to the point where I wouldn't have been able to do it at all. The other big surprise to me was, despite the output loss you get when using a softbox like this, I was still using the 300C between 20 and 40% of its max output throughout the shoot. We were shooting in a controlled studio environment, so we weren't fighting any daylight, but this light is impressively bright for what it is. For our last shot of the day, I had to reuse a setup to save time since we were running a bit overtime on our day. To make sure it felt different from the previous setups, despite the lights being in the same place, I changed the 300C and our background light, which was an Amaran F22C, both to contrasting blue and pink, and we were able to nail a quick last-minute shot before wrapping the day. All in all, because we were working with such a small team building all of our own sets in an empty studio, I appreciated that the 300C just worked without any hiccups. It's a testament to a good piece of gear when you're able to focus on other aspects of the shoot. The less it makes you think, the better, in my opinion. Now, typically video lights aren't bright enough or too heavy to be go-to for shooting photos. I think the 300C gets over the hump of being bright enough for most studio portrait or product situations, while not being too cumbersome to bring around for stills use. There will, of course, be better tools designed specifically for shooting stills only, but if you don't want to own multiple different kinds of lights for your photography and video work, then this can pull off doing both in one unit. Similarly, if you are setting up an interview, podcast set, or a live streaming desk setup, the 300C has the output and modifier options to be a great key light, or even a set it and forget it all around background light where you can change the color of your shot quickly from day to day. The body of the 300C is made from all plastic except for the Bowens mount receiver for softboxes and the baby pin receiver for putting this on a light stand. I appreciate that these two components are all metal since it makes the light strong where it matters the most. The rear of the light has a display for all the controls, 2 physical dials for light intensity and color control, and a Bluetooth reset button. The power input and switch are located at the bottom of the lamp. The tilt handle is also plastic but feels secure when tightened down. On the other side of the tilt handle is the umbrella mount. The power brick for the 300C comes with a small steel cable to hang off of a light stand, and the C13 power cable that it comes with has a locking mechanism, which is a great touch so it doesn't accidentally come loose and turn off your lights at any point during your shoot. For all the good that I have to say about the 300C, there are a few small quirks that I came across. Unlike the more premium built Aperture 300D Mark II, the 300C doesn't have a ratcheting lock handle, which would make tightening down the light slightly more difficult if you're trying to adjust it from a weird angle. The power brick could also prove to be a fragile point on the setup since it is just a standard plastic brick, not super durable to a bad drop. It would also have been nice if they could have had a more secure way to mount it to a stand to prevent it from getting knocked around on a highly active set. If you find yourself shooting in harsher conditions a lot, it's definitely still possible to use the 300C in outdoor weather like rainy or windy days, but you will always need to take extra precautions with it in these conditions because it is less durable than your average all-metal film light made for rentals. The styrofoam light case that is included with the 300C is roomy and it is easy to put everything back in when packing it up. But if you were planning on flying around the world with this light, I'd recommend looking into an alternative solution just to make sure it isn't beaten up in customs. It's rare for me to say this, but if you are any kind of a creator at any skill level of lighting, this light is for you. There has never been a single light on the market that can be used in this wide a variety of situations at a price point that is this affordable. It won't be the absolute best light for every situation, but it is the light that you can use in basically any situation and you likely will not be disappointed. If you're looking to buy your first LED light ever, I think this is one of the best entry points that is on the market right now. And if you're a seasoned professional who works on higher end productions, if you can get over the build quality quirks, this light packs a lot of punch for the money. The 300C costs $569 US, while its lower output sister, the 150C, costs $359 US. I would personally recommend owning the 300C over the 150C since the extra output is invaluable in most situations. If you have the budget for both, then with just two lights, you'd have an incredibly versatile setup for under $1,000 US. That is so much better than what I was using 10 years ago. I would have killed for a light like this back then. Glad it exists now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and you want to help me continue make more content, please consider using any of the links in the video description to make your next online purchase. See you next time.